Saturday Night Live at the Hive Digital Marketing from the Trenches. I'm your host, Dan Nadelko.
And I'm Stacy DeSantis.
And I'm Paige Gervais.
And today we are going to talk about a fun thing called production design, why it's different for a design team, why a marketing team and a content team should be enabled with production design. And if you've got the resources, you could have a design team and a production design team, and they should be segmented and separate for a whole host of reasons. So Paige is joining us today, who is on our design team. Welcome, Paige.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All righty. So we'll just let everybody pile on in here. Let's see what we've got going on. There we go. Hello, Justin. Welcome, everybody. All righty. So yes, production design. So, what is it? Why do we want to use it? And why is it actually super duper important? I'll just share the screen here and off we go. All right. So one of the important things I think to remember here is, and we use Canva to help enable production design. And in the game of things, it's a relatively new tool. But back in the Stone Ages, when I was working with very large design teams that numbered, up to 30 people sometimes, there was always a distinction between a design team. Now, the senior designers, the creative director, the rest of those teams, they should actually be that worried about the production design. I mean, beyond a review cycle process. And then the production design team was tasked with like weekly and monthly deliverables for landing pages, for creatives and everything else. Now, I'm dating myself. This is before the days. This is long before social media was really an impact. And I think downward pressures is the volume of content that design teams can be requested to create for even a simple social media calendar. I think, Paige, that's something that you've felt that pressure, I guess, if that's fair to say.
Definitely.
Yeah. So a typical design team will work within Adobe Creative Cloud, obviously, is kind of the big monster in the room, but Adobe Creative Cloud is complicated, right? Like, Premiere is not a beginner's video editing suite. It can be used for production, but you do have to have a pretty high skill level. Same thing with Illustrator, same thing with Photoshop. They have a high learning curve. They're expensive, and they're really best in the hands of a professional. And when we're talking about production design, we have a lot of deliverables. Like approximately, Stacy, would you say how many deliverables would you have in a month on that? 30 to 40 easy assets?
Maybe even more than that. Yeah, and it's true. Like with social, especially if we're just to look at that particular channel, there are a variety of different formats that you're going to need, whether it's like videos, reels, stories, if you're doing a poll, a whole bunch of different tactics that we use on social, and we want to vary that content or the creative, if you will, for each of those channels. And there's, I hate to say it, but there is a lot of bad social design out there because they haven't done some of the steps we're going to talk about, because they're trying to do it really quickly, or they're trying to make it look like they would have with print, and it's a different beast altogether. So that's why production design is so important, because you can work efficiently, you can make sure things look consistent, you can turn it around really fast, and it's a better use of everyone's time in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I think the one of the important things to touch upon there is, so we're going to talk about Canva just to kind of cut to the chase. So we're talking about Canva, why it's a great tool. But there's also quite a bit of what we would call Canva abuse out there, which is...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Paige, I've actually seen that firsthand as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think we'll touch on this too, but it's all kind of about personalizing your designs within Canva so that when someone sees your social page, they're not like, oh, that was made all on Canva. That's all they know. So we'll definitely touch on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're kind of like a kid in the candy store with Canva too. Like there are so many different options that if you don't have a good brand identity developed, or you don't have that brand book, if you will, you can really go off kilter. And you, if anything, on social or any communications channel, one thing that you always want to remain is consistent, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And like anything, these things are tools. They're capable tools. A tool in the hands of, you know, a master carpenter. That master carpenter can create something beautiful. You put that tool in my hands and you're going to come out with a lump of wood that looks really strange, right?
Oh, I wouldn't say that with you.
And
You've
yeah,
built
I'm not
it,
really
though.
good at, I wouldn't call myself a super skilled woodworker. So let's just use that as the analogy. And so when we talk about tooling, we want to talk about the proper use of the tool in the right way, for the right type of person that understands the features that are available to that tool, and how that will then help smooth that production design workflow over the long term. Like this is a sustainable kind of process that you can use. So just to kind of jump into it a little bit, why we would use Canva for to streamline creative production workflows. Obviously, collaboration is not easy. And to be frank, and Paige, you're in Creative Cloud more than I am, but Creative Cloud collaboration is a unique thing to Creative Cloud. It does it its own very unique way. And it's not really collaborative for everybody in that life cycle or process.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not very efficient. I know there's times where me and Justin are trying to send files to each other and it just takes forever. So I think Canva is great. A lot of people think Canva is just good for nice templates and whatnot. But as you mentioned, like we'll be touching on the increased productivity, how it saves headaches, the collaboration, and just benefits to production design as a whole, because there's a lot of benefits that Canva brings other than just nice design templates.
Yeah. And so what we're going to be breaking down today is how you work smarter, not harder. The tools within Canva to help maintain your brand kit and your brand identity, because we're going to talk about editable areas versus image assets and creative assets. We'll talk a little bit about that. How to customize those templates inside of Canva so you can take a design that a professional designer will create in Illustrator, and then the outcome will be that that design should be mimicked very accurately within Canva with other editable areas using proper fonts that the production team can then create during their workflow processes, where it would be Stacy's team on content wanting to use some of these templates in order to create that without having to go back and then having a senior designer producing 40 different types of templates for creative, which we have seen happen. We're also going to talk about how Canva is a one-stop shop, how you can store and share assets, and some of the other tools. Obviously, you can work from anywhere. It's web-based. The collaboration tools, last-minute editing, and the very powerful addition of plugins. We'll show you a couple of examples where very common tasks for production and design teams, things like removing backgrounds, which admittedly are available within Photoshop, but it's also a one-click removal system in Canva. Therefore, you don't have to be skilled in Photoshop to know how to use it.
Yeah, there's no clipping. There's no
There's no wasting like an hour removing.
Yeah, you don't have to do the border. You can just get her done. And I think it's important too that it doesn't matter what industry you're in, Canva's so versatile. So whether you're in woodworking or I don't know, maybe you're in a beauty supply business, it doesn't matter, because Canva has so much great stock imagery and video clips that you can use it for almost anything.
Yeah, so let's dive right in. And I think, again, the one thing I want to reiterate here is any tool can be great or any tool can be very bad. It's how you set it up and how you use it. And really where we're starting from here is you have a professional designer. your professional designer should be doing more than just like your professionals should not be doing production design, right? They should be developing patterns and systems of, you know, both visual and communications design. And then the production is a separate topic altogether, right? That's where you get your boots on the ground and you start getting things into production and into that life cycle. Okay. So let's get going here. So obviously I don't know if I even we should necessarily even talk about like what Canva is, but for those of you that may not know, I do think a lot of people do know, it is a web-based, one of the unicorns in the startup world. It's basically a place to design anything. It's got thousands of templates to work from. And although severely limited compared to a Photoshop, it streamlines the most basic of functions in order to produce your content.
100%. Benny B said it great in the comments right now. Canva is beautiful. I can't beautiful.
Oh dear, no fromage in that at all. Good job, guys. Good job. Very funny. Very funny. Yeah. So let's just see here, and I'll show you a little bit here. But here's an example of a Canva workflow here, and just, you know, to introduce this for people that may not be familiar with it, you've got elements, uploads, photos, text, backgrounds, all your designs. With the Pro upgrade, you can set up brand kits, which will allow you to ensure that the proper fonts and the proper colors are there. Now, I think one of the things that I want to reiterate first, and this is the overview, the basic idea of this workflow is simply this. You start with your design team and you identify your content pillars and the types of content that you create. And it is really important to reiterate one thing. This is not to suggest, by looking at that screenshot over there, that every single piece of content on your social will be fully, completely branded. I actually don't think that that's a great idea, but I think that there's a good mix of branded versus organic versus shared content that can give your profile a really human element to it. And, you know, depending on the brand, some brands want a higher level of branding on their socials as well.
If I could give you a virtual high five, I would.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You know, there's so many social accounts over there that overly brand every single piece of creative. And while there is a time and place to do that branding, you have to really make sure that you're keeping your authenticity in your messaging and in your imagery. So don't always feel that if you have a poll that you need to brand it. If you have a story, you need to brand it. Sometimes those unbranded moments are the most special in your feed, right? So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. So this is about diversity. And if you look at what Canva is here, so let's use this as an example. So in this particular example right here, what we're seeing is, and this is a bit fictitious because we've put this together as an example, but Paige and Justin on our design team, they would work in Illustrator, you know, after creating the brand guidelines and the brand kit. And typically what comes out, as you'll see here, is there are certain elements. You know, there's an overlay background here. There's a blue highlight. There's another blue highlight on the other side, right? These are elements that the design team would then export individually with transparencies enabled. And that becomes part of your templating kit. So step one, understand your content pillars and what are the things that you want to say, right? Like what are the themes, right? Then step two is have your design team spend the proper amount of time to thoughtfully put those together, right? Step three, upon review and the design team is working on these things, then they create the assets. It goes through the approval process. Once that's finished, all the assets get exported individually as template kits, okay? Then in Canva, you're going to go in and we're going to start to build out the Canva elements to mimic exactly the fonts, the colors, everything, the styles that you have in the original artwork, but now it's prepared in Canva, right? So just as a quick example, like this particular brand's default font is called Nunito Sans. So, but now if a client wants, like, you've got a quote template, but if you wanted to change that content, you don't need to go back to the design team to say, okay, here's my 74 different pieces of content that you have to now produce for me.
Yeah, because
Right?
maybe you're just taking one word out of that quote. Like, that's not a good use of their time. Not when someone on the content team could go in and easily make that change and then just download it
Yeah.
again,
I
right?
know there was one time where I think I got a message from someone saying, "Can you take this period out of this sentence?" And I had like 50 artboards in my Illustrator. I'm like, okay, let me look for this. But like what Dan was mentioning, it's not about, you don't have to completely get rid of Adobe if you have it, or you don't have to fire your designers. Hopefully I can keep my job. But it's also about like personalizing. So you can make the template in Adobe and then, like Dan said, just upload them with transparency into Canva. So then you're getting a personalized template and it doesn't look Canva-y like some people are worried about.
Yeah, and I think this is one thing too that designers need to calm down a little bit when I talk about this, because on larger design teams, there's always production design, right? Because you need to produce from a marketing perspective. There's a creative and a design team, and like I said, they look at patterns. They're doing bigger picture things as well. But then in the middle of all of that, you know, a poor marketing team is sitting out there saying, well, we've got a campaign that launched. The client didn't get me the 4 revisions. I have downward pressure. Now you've got social media, and social media throws a huge stick into the spokes of that bicycle.
Yeah.
Because you're producing, right? And then, yeah, a spelling mistake or terminology issue or whatever it might be. Someone doesn't like the use of imagery that's been put in there, or they want to change it. Those minor revisions can be massive workflow problems. And that's what this is. This is not, Canva will never replace proper designers, and Canva will never replace Creative Cloud, as an example, or Sketch, or any Figma, or whatever you're using. There's so many of them out there now. But this is a different type of a tool that's meant to adapt for marketing and content teams, to enable content teams to produce at the pace that's expected of them, right? So that's really the point. So that's all about working harder.
Yeah, and it's also good too, like if you have the Canva app. I've worked events in the past, and I know we don't do so many events anymore given the pandemic, but at the time I could ensure that I was staying within a brand, you know, guidelines by using Canva, because there's already a template there, and I could easily switch out the image from like the trade show or whatever, place that image there, add the text overlay, and I didn't have to bother the design team at all, which I'm sure they appreciated because it was on a Saturday. So you know.
Yeah, exactly. So now we're going to talk about some cool Canva tools that are built in. I'm not sure. I think a lot of people that use Canva may know this, but I've seen it not implemented a lot. But there's actually a brand kit, and with a pro account and a single pro account, if you've got a tight budget, it's not that expensive for what you get. I think it's a good thing to implement. But in the brand kit, and Paige, do you want to speak to that a little bit while I'm actually going to show them?
Of course, I think everybody knows that a brand kit is crucial, but it's crucial just to ensure your team is on the same page when it comes to your design standards. So Canva does make it easy to group your brand colors, your logos, your fonts. They even have the ability to upload your own font if needed. So this is something that you'll be referencing whenever you make a new design for that client. And say for an agency like us, we could have 20 different brand kits in Canva for all of our individual clients. So it's really nice just to have it all grouped together so that we're not having to reference a brand book or brand guidelines.
Yeah, so a couple of things to roll over here. And hey, if you're interested in smart investing, I suggest you visit comlatech.com, a great community for ETF investing. That's our plug for today. So this is an example of a
Where
brand.
are the sound effects? We need the sound effects. Hey, come on.
They're there. All right. So with that, you know, obviously the design team has created a full brand set of brand guidelines. And you know, one of the saddest things, and Paige, I'm sure you've seen this lots of times, even though you're early on in your career, brand guidelines get created, they get shoved into the bottom drawer, they get lost in some Google Drive or OneDrive somewhere, and nobody ever looks at it. The sales team is using Comic Sans font and yellow and green and blue and crazy stuff. Yeah. So
the stuff that they definitely shouldn't be using, especially if it's like a corporate client. You don't want that Comic Sans in there.
Yeah, and you do see that a lot. It's a very common thing, but some of the things you can do. So brand logos, we've got one here, but you can put up all your variations, right? You could put up your logo itself. This is technically a logo plus word mark. You could put just the word mark. Every variation that's in your brand kit, you can upload here. And then it's easy for the team. They don't have to pick and select different things, and they're not uploading random versions that may be too low resolution, for example. Another very important part in here are in this case, the brand colors from the brand book. These ones are pretty simple, but some brand books are much more complex. Okay. So then again, when people are working inside of it, they're not, this is something I see personally all the time. It drives me nuts when we're working even on websites. I mean, it's close, but there are like 7 different RGB and hex codes for a very similar version of a blue or a gray, right? Mm-hmm. From a design perspective, it's just enough to be noticeable if you're looking for it. And once you see it, it's one of those things you can't unsee.
Yeah. And I think too, like in terms of Comlatech here, April, funny.
I love Comic Sans. It's empowered a whole generation of church workers.
Oh, man. I'm sure Justin is cringing right now anyway, too. But what I was going to say with Comlatech, what's interesting is you'll notice they have like the clover or the flower beside them. And yeah, we'll go with clover. And what I was going to say is that sometimes people, they think they kind of start to take artistic license in Canva, and they might repurpose that clover and maybe use it in a way that doesn't make sense for the brand. So that's another piece that you'll want to add in your brand guide, is to make sure that any kind of imagery that's associated with your logo is being used in the way that you feel is appropriate for the brand.
For sure. For sure. Another thing here is you've got your text styles, your brand fonts. So your headings, your subheadings. Again, some brands have very complicated sets of font usage. Some are simpler. But another powerful feature here in the brand is uploading your own fonts. So as long as you have a license, you can upload your font. There's no need to have to find a Google font replacement for it. You can upload your font there and have an exact one-to-one replica of everything that a team would be using inside of their Adobe Creative Cloud platform. Okay, so that's the first thing, is really get that brand kit set up and set it up for each one as you go through this process of your production design. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about templates, since we've been talking about this. And so Canva is awesome because they help non-designers design, right? That's dangerous. Under some circumstances. It can also, be careful, be wary, especially if you've got a design team and you're going into Canva. I think one of the dangers is just grabbing one of these templates that you can see here, changing the font and slapping some stuff down, right? It's important. There's actually, I think, was it you or Justin Page that found this whole Reddit thread of people bashing Canva?
Wasn't me. It might have been Justin.
Okay, I think it was Justin. There's a whole Reddit thread of real designers bashing Canva, but it's inappropriate anger. I think one of the things is that these templates are there for people that have literally no design help at all. Okay, so your job isn't threatened by someone that will never ever interact with you ever, right? The second thing that's important for designers to remember is these templates are not for you. These templates, you create the template for your users. So in a sense, And again, I've worked on larger design teams in marketing where the design team actually treated the marketing team as a client, right?
Yeah.
And that's a very common work pattern for design teams, is to say they're almost have an agency mindset inside of another organization, right? And then anybody that comes in as a customer that gets treated the same way, right? And one of the things that part of that would be is, okay, marketing team, tell us what templates you need. And so this is the back and forth. It's the obligation of the business units within the business to inform the design team with what's called a creative brief, right? And the creative brief is the who, how, where, what, and why are we doing this?
Yep.
Okay, right? So just as an example on the template side of things, one thing that I would say is a creative brief would include, well, here are our 6 pillars of social media themes. Here are 4 examples for each pillar of the type of content that we require. I want to bring forward the personality of our CEO or influencer, whatever that might be. I want to highlight our podcast series and the fact that we have numerous guests. I want to inspire and entertain through valuable nuggets of information. I want to repurpose our podcast, and I want waveform audio, waveform videos that will highlight the influencer, the guest, our brand. Boom. There's like, I mean, in very rough shape, that's a creative brief, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then the design team goes to work, does revisions. And again, once those templates are done, they get loaded into Canva. And you could use some of these templates as inspiration for that process. So I don't know if...
Yeah. I think bottom line, it's not the tool, it's your process that needs to be.
Yeah.
Updated.
Canva's not a solution to design, right? Like it's
just
not
a
gonna,
tool, it's just
a tool.
Yeah.
And I look at it very strongly as a production design tool for non-designers with rules and brand kits that are put in place to be able to produce the content and then send it back to a senior designer or whomever for that final review. And we'll talk about some of those tools as well. Okay. Oh, there we go. I just didn't move the slides forward there, personalizing those templates. So yeah, Paige, I don't know. Do you have anything else you wanted to add into that process? I mean, that's.
Well, the one thing to touch on just for templates, Canva is also really great because they have templates for any social channel. So they have like a LinkedIn sponsored post, Instagram story, just Instagram, basically anything that you would need. They have the sizes on there, and they do make it easy to resize a design. So say I design something in a square, I can easily shift it into like a LinkedIn sponsored post. You might have to move some stuff around. They make that easy. And then they also do have templates for presentations, social posts, business cards, basically anything. So it is all in there, which kind of ties into our one-stop shop slide, which we kind of go into. There's no reason to leave Canva because they have the fonts, they have the icons, they have the photography, and templates for just about anything. So they do make it easy on you.
Yeah, again, that's a really good point. Like from a production design perspective, this is probably a little dated, but it still happens. For advertising creative, sometimes you'll have over 100 different sizes depending on what networks you go into. And there's been, I've worked with designers and they're tasked with producing this, and just, now with social, because social networks are social networks, they never have a consistent sizing policy. So, we were putting together that asset list. It's literally dozens upon dozens of different formats and sizes. And yeah, one thing that's very, very powerful within Canva is what's called their magic resize. Oops. So I can go here, I can hit resize. This is what Paige was just talking about. And you can see here, I can resize my story to, okay, I don't know, what do I want? I want a LinkedIn post, say. There we go. Copy and resize. Boom. Right? Who is doing this?
Is this Brandon?
I think someone manning Benny B is dipping into the early cocktails.
Brandon, stop the daydreaming.
Yeah, create a honey sweet template. Okay, well, that's
I told him to be punny today. I'm
Oh, so
good
it's
job.
your
good at it
fault.
too.
Very good job. Very good job. Just joking. All right. So yeah, there's the magic resize. That's again another feature of Canva that is very, very powerful. So let's just go here. So yeah, in terms of it being the one-stop shop, we just talked about that. Another thing is just the sharing capabilities here. We did touch on it before. You're able to send a share link that will send a Canva link to anybody to get their feedback and their comments. I think one thing I'd like to see are anonymous comments. That's not a feature yet, but Vimeo, for example, actually has that with their video sharing tool, which is a huge time saver because you timestamp it at that moment. This is very similar, but yeah, the sharing capabilities are, if you've ever, tried to embed the images into a spreadsheet, then send the spreadsheet to the client, and the client has to go look through, like it's a nightmare. And these are very costly steps that happen to anybody running a business, in marketing in a business, on a marketing team, at a marketing agency, or a freelancer. Those are dollars going down the sink when you look at the fact that you are wasting so many cycles involving multiple people with multiple steps on multiple platforms to try to get the fact that somebody didn't like an image. Right. There's also file and folder sharing. I don't know if am I skipping over that? Yeah. So the ability in here, and I'll show y'all. Another very important part here is the ability to create folders. And inside of those folders, you can create assets. So this is a finance ice blue sample I put together, but this could be a client's template. And you can store your templates in a reasonable way because Canva just barfs all these out into all your design section. So you can keep your templates separated from other assets and keep things organized and efficient.
Yeah, it keeps them organized, but it also is a nice way just to have that visual overview of everything that you have created and just be like, are these cohesive? Do these match together and whatnot? So.
Yeah, I know.
Andrew Hassan replying to Honey, you've inspired me to use Canva. Thanks, Honeypot. I don't know if this conversation goes for software developers or not, though. I'm not sure how you guys fit into this mix, but you can use Canva, my friend. See, what we're talking about, Andrew, is process automation. That's what we want. You can actually pair Canva with things like Zapier and Automate.io to create very powerful. As soon as a post is published, you can actually send a notification email to somebody, like stuff like that, so that you can work out those flows as well. Here we go. So edits and tweaks. Yeah, that's all on the collaboration side of things. And this one here, I think, is super powerful. We did talk about this a little bit. Andrew, yes, me too. I'm actually creating some merch that's going to be like automate everything. Automate it all, like everything possible. I'm a big fan of automation as well.
So you like automation?
Yeah, I kind of like automation.
Okay, cool.
Hey, listen, when you have an automation that has like 7 or 8 steps that is actually literally doing things that a human being would just struggle with putting it all together, and it just goes through the steps accordingly and then zips it off. Just as an example, I'm not going to get bogged down in automations, but you could actually have a shared drive in Google that will trigger Otter.ai to implement a translation. And once the translation is complete, have that translation attached to an email, put into a Google Drive, notify a blogger that their transcription is ready. You could even actually have it uploaded and posted into WordPress as a draft, then notify the blogger to go in and do it. That's like 8 steps, could all be done by one zap. So there you go. That's automation unleashed. That's a good one.
I just made myself a coffee today and thought, wow, good job, Stace.
All right, so let's just wrap on this one here. This is honestly one of the most powerful features of Canva, and what's going to make them be able to scale is they've introduced a plugin architecture, which means Canva creates their own plugins as well, but third parties can create their own plugins as well. providing, I mean, you know, you see the filters there. And again, you know, just to reiterate what the point of this actually is quite simply that you have a tool here that can enable the process for your production design team, your content team, to create assets at scale. And just to kind of give it a little bit more here on that is whenever we have a campaign, right? People say launching a campaign is easy. It's not. It's tough. So let's say I've got a webinar campaign and I'm doing a live event with it, and I'm sending email and I'm posting to Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and I'm running LinkedIn stories, LinkedIn ads, boosted content, and LinkedIn posts. Count. Like if we have actual worksheets that have all these assets, you get into 50 to 60 different assets that you need to produce in order to keep yourself on brand, right?
Yeah.
That's for one campaign. So these kinds of tools are extremely important. Like what Paige was saying, like even on the Magic Resize, is being able to have these things as templates in here will save the life of a designer, right? So let's just look at this. I'm going to show you here. So let's say I don't want Santa in here in my terrible example. I want businesswoman. See what I did there? Let's go.
Let's do it.
Okay, so she's great. Perfect. We're going to, okay. And not to say that this is the right image or not, but whatever. Okay, so then I just go to edit image, bap the background remover, sit back, read Reddit, chill out, do whatever I want to do.
According to April, you're going to start a t-shirt line.
I need to, I know. I really do. Et voila. My background has been removed. Okay. Now this is literally one of the most powerful. I like this kind of a thing. If you're in production design, like one of the most common things you're doing is clipping a person from background, right?
That's true.
And, you know, to just kind of go over the process. Okay. Content calendar is created. We need our influencer here to be on we have 4 different images. We need backgrounds removed from each one of those. Send those over. The client sends the image, gets loaded to the drive. Paige gets a Slack and a Basecamp task. Paige goes in, removes the backgrounds, notifies Stacy. Stacy goes, and then now they start to put it into creative. That goes back to Paige again. Oh, there's a copy revision. You're seeing, you count it back and forth, right? And back and forth and back and forth. And it was just, that's a nightmare versus I just did what I did there with clicking the button, right?
Yeah.
And it's a very powerful tool. So April's saying she remembers when she did design. Let's see why. There it goes. Removing backgrounds. It's actually, to be fair, in Creative Cloud, there's some really good background removal and AI stuff that they've added to it. But it's still a cruise missile at a mosquito.
Watch out, April. You're showing your age. No, but it did take a long time. I used to do work like that as well. And but I'm really showing my age if I talk about my experience. So.
This is coming from someone that, well, what are you, 4 years, 5 years younger than me?
4, I think. Yeah.
So there we go. And I've just put her into a laptop. So these tools on the edit image side with these filters, and there's really there's tons of other ones that are available here. You've got lots of effect plugins and things like that you can work with, but you've got shadows, you've got frames, you've got duotones, you've got mock-ups. These are tools and these are things that production design and marketing teams that are at the tip of the spear really struggle with. And it can cause a lot of headache and heartache. So these are just some of the reasons, and hopefully we've walked through the process in terms of how Canva works together with the design team, why designers should not be scared of a Canva. Designers shouldn't hate on a Canva at all. They should be, I think, and I'll let Paige chime in on this. If I was a full-time designer, I would be Canva's biggest champion. I would be fighting for Canva for the marketing team, because there's nothing more annoying, and I know this for a fact, there's nothing more annoying to a design team than a marketing team.
Well, I just think it's nice to have Canva, especially for these content calendars. So for certain clients, I could get like 50 assets that I need to make, which relatively can all look almost the same. So this is great for Canva. Like, people just come in, remove the image, slap in some text, and you're good to go. So yeah, I definitely think that it lets us kind of focus on the bigger picture and things that need a little bit more attention than some social posts.
And it maintains the integrity of the social post, the quality of the social post, and, you know, all of those things. Okay. All right, everybody. Well, we're a little bit over time. Look, we like 45 minutes. What are we
That's
at?
pretty
Yeah,
good. We
40
started
minutes.
a little later. So.
We started late. Thanks, Paige.
Yeah, Paige.
Okay, I need some headphone recommendations for Christmas because it's coming up.
Yeah, the AirPods, now that I reduced your volume and I think you're talking over, they're not bad, but I honestly don't think your audio is going through your AirPods. I think it's going through and Mac. You have a Mac, right? Mac user. So Apple, in all their wisdom, placed the mic in the absolute worst spot, which is, I believe, right in the middle by the speakers. So if you ever it's damn near a useless mic on its own. So
kind of like Feedback Central.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So Canva helps keep the bees out of our bonnets.
Oh God. Oh wait, no. I mean, there are good times. There are good better times. But it's all good. All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much for joining us as we talk about how to create production workflows and efficiencies using great tools like Canva. Canva is a great tool where it belongs and what it's intended to do. And it's even more powerful when you pair it with a professional designer who can use very powerful tools like Adobe Creative Cloud, and how you can work that into your entire workflow, your entire life, and your entire process.
Yep, we're all about you working smarter, not harder.
There we go. Excellent. All right, everybody. So you have a great weekend. We will see you next week for episode 208 of Live at the Hive Digital Marketing from the Trenches. Same B time, same B channel. Peace.
Bye.
Peace.